Now, we just had the first US presidential debate, the aftermath of which has been very, very entertaining, super dramatic. The internet has been on absolute fire.
The total initiative relative to what we can do with...
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
But all of this, guys, has got me thinking about Bitcoin's price action relative to the US presidential election. Every time Bitcoin has had its halving, that's when US has had its presidential election. So we had one in 2012, the first Bitcoin halving in 2012, US presidential election also in 2012. Now note that these things happens once every 4 years. Just with the first data point alone, you know that they always going to sync up every 4 years. So the next halving happened in 2016. The next presidential election also happened in 2016. We had the most recent Bitcoin halving happen in April of 2024. And what do you know? This next presidential election happens on November 5th of 2024. Now let's go ahead and mark out all of the Bitcoin halvings that's taken place so far, which is a total of 4 halvings so far. And here they are, marked out in orange vertical lines. The first one on November of 2012, second one July 2016, third one May of 2020, and the fourth one that just happened on April of 2024. Now, the one observation I want you guys to all make here is that post every halving, Bitcoin has gone on to make higher highs. This was the first halving of 2012, and notice Bitcoin went on to do a whopping 9,000%. The next halving that took place in July of 2016, once again, what did it do? Price went on to make higher highs. That was a whopping 3,100%. The next halving that took place was 2020, and what did price end up doing? Once again, guys, higher highs as far as price action is concerned. And here in this bull market, price went on to do another 600% to the upside. Now notice we just got the most recent halving that took place in April of 2024. However, it appears price is pulling back. Is this expected? Did price actually do this on every other halving event that we've had leading into the election? Well, let's go ahead and mark out all of these elections. And here they are, marked out in white vertical lines. Now this first halving of 2012 was the only halving where the halving event actually happened after the election. But let's zoom in. There was a total of 3 weeks between both the events, but in that time, Bitcoin went in to put in higher highs as far as weekly price action is concerned. Throughout the entire election year, guys, Bitcoin was in a bullish consolidation that put in an ascending triangle-like formation, a bullish pattern, until it broke out in Jan 2013, yielding traders a good 9,000%. The main observation being that prices was in a bullish consolidation, offering traders a buy the dip opportunity leading into the rest of the cycle. Now, as far as cycle number 2 is concerned, the halving event took place before the US presidential election. Now, here's what price did between those two events. It went on to consolidate. However, this too was a bullish consolidation. Yes, prices did dump a good 40% from the top, from the local high all the way to that wick. That was a good 37 to 40% on that dump. However, check this out. It went in to put in a bullish consolidation where every weekly candle was higher than the previous one that came before. The key takeaway here being that yes, while Bitcoin was in a consolidation between the Bitcoin halving and the US presidential election, this was a buy the dip opportunity. This was just another local low before prices went on to rally all the way up to $20,000. Now this right here was the window between the Bitcoin halving of 2020 and the US presidential election that also happened in 2020. Now once again, within this window, guys, we saw very, very similar price action, right? Wherein Bitcoin's price was in a range of consolidation. Notice had we had not taken out those previous highs that came in at around $12,400. Instead, though, prices did go on to put in higher highs. Every dip was a buy the dip opportunity, which then consequentially led to the breakout in November of 2020, leading into the election month. Prices then went on to rally another 400% from there on. But this window, once again, while we did see a consolidation, this was also a buy the dip opportunity between the Bitcoin halving and the US presidential election. The first pullback on this range was a good 15% to the downside, and the second pullback on the range was a good 22% to the downside. However, still, while price maintained the bullish structure. Now, we're currently in the 2024 cycle, wherein we've already had the Bitcoin halving that happened in April. The election happens in November of this year. Now, going through the cycles, there are 3 points that remain true. A bullish consolidation. The breakouts of the range come in closer to election day, either before or maybe slightly after, and the time span between the Bitcoin halving and the US presidential election often tend to be good buy the dip opportunities. So as far as this year is concerned, this pullback that we're seeing right now is not out of the ordinary. We've seen this happen before on every other halving that we've had, the period between the halving and the US presidential election. For as long as it's holding its bullish structure, we can still look for this cycle to continue. Now, we've been using the weekly Mango dynamic indicator to keep us on the right side of the cycle ever since the cycle began, and if I just have to zoom out of this chart, you'll notice that on every Bitcoin halving, between the Bitcoin halving and the US presidential election, price has always stayed above the weekly Mango dynamic support. This was the period between the halving of 2012 and the election of 2012. Notice dynamic was support. This was the halving of 2016 and the US election of 2016, and notice once again the consolidation happened over the weekly dynamic, once again proving to be support. This was the halving of May of 2020 and the US election of 2020, and once again we had a bullish consolidation over that weekly dynamic support, putting in higher highs. Now this is the period between the halving of April of 2024. Now we have the upcoming election that happens in November of 2024, and so far we're holding dynamic support, and I would like to see this structure actually remain bullish. Now for those of you who want the numbers on the dynamic range, go ahead and take note of it. If you do not have access to the indicator, it comes in from around $62,432 going all the way down to $58,408. Of course, if you want to get the indicator, you can find it on the mango.market/dynamic. Now the key takeaway over here is that this pullback is not out of the ordinary. Okay, this has happened in the past between the Bitcoin halving and the US presidential election, and the consolidation phases between these two events has often been great buy the dip opportunities for the market, wherein prices then go on to put in higher highs. As far as bull run targets are concerned, we are looking at Bitcoin at the minimum getting up to $220,000. That's a big target. I know. But hey, there's an objective system behind it, to one that I shared on the Mango dashboard section. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't already done so. Now, I thought this was a cool observation of price action between the halving and the US presidential election. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments section below, and one better, just hit the like, and if you're not already subbed to the channel, go ahead and do so, because I will be putting out more videos just like this one. Now with this, trade safely, trade stress-free, trade the Mango way, trade the easy way. Ciao, you guys.